Alright, I am back with what is probably going to be the most pointless video I've ever made, a build video for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League's Joker. I did a few of these closer to launch, back before the game was like this massive failure. I've talked a lot about how this has been a horrible season launch in many ways, but I thought, let's do something relatively normal for the dozens of us who are playing the game here. As I've said, I think one of my favorite things about the game is actual gameplay. I do think it's pretty fun to zip around and to concoct builds for these characters in a way that is interesting. We are constantly fighting against the game itself because of some very stupid modifiers that keep happening, and these are worse than ever, but this build is pretty much mainly about how to get around those modifiers in the first place. And it means build selection is very, very limited to a point where you kind of have to do something like this because so many things are restricted by you essentially must poison enemies in order to do significant damage to them or get around immunity shields and things like that. So this build is all about poison, spreading poison, although it is not really heavily reliant on any of the new 3 Scarecrow sets. Rather, it is almost entirely Notorious gear, both because of the way each of these items tend to have poison stuff, and also because of the villain interactions they have with each other, with Scarecrow, and how that does even additional poison effects that I would argue are more relevant than the actual Scarecrow effects, although I do have one Scarecrow piece in here. Okay, so we'll just start with my main weapon here, which is Merlin's Blinding Shot. Obviously, anything you can get a master version of, you want that, especially your main gun. This is a 3-round burst assault rifle where I've spooled it up to do a bunch of critical hit damage, and that's important because this is a weapon that has 75% increased critical hit chance. And dealing 2 consecutive critical hits on an enemy reduces their damage output by 90% for 3 seconds. So that is exceedingly useful on things like brutes or vehicles, things like that, which will just instantly nerf them. Nothing poison related there, except we will get into that in a minute. This is synergy with Bane. So you can use one piece of the old Bane set for some synergy with a few different things here. I literally just picked a shotgun. I'm never using the shotgun. It doesn't really matter. It's not a master version. Just any weapon that he can use, which are pistols, shotguns, and assault rifles. So I just literally picked a random one. The bonus here is if you kill 3 afflicted enemies within 10 seconds, you gain 100% critical hit chance for 20 seconds. So given how this is mostly a build about kind of blowing things up with a lot of grenades in addition to skeet shooting stuff with your assault rifle, and most everything is going to be on fire, that is a really good skill to have because 100% critical hit chance not only does a lot of damage, but it's also important for poison stuff. I'll just skip ahead to the poison thing. You need one piece of this Poison Mine Scarecrow set because it makes critical hits apply poison. So any enemy you hit with a critical hit, you will apply poison. And to get around all these freaking immunity shields, all this crap, you need to poison enemies or have them be affected by poison. And then on top of this, you get a bonus where you reduce damage from poison enemies by 25%, which is important at higher levels where you will get one shot a lot otherwise. Okay, continuing to go. This is the new Mad Hatter weapon. This one isn't really super important. You poison enemies you hit, but most things are going to be poisoned anyway. Melee damage is not a really important part of this build. The synergy here is kind of interesting, where this is Mad Hatter synergizing with Scarecrow. When you kill an enemy with a critical hit, again, a lot of critical hits in this build, you get a hat. If you get 7 hats, you get one of 3 crazy bonuses. All of these are good. Increased damage dealt by 100% for 20 seconds, but you take more damage. So if you don't want that to happen, I guess you don't have to use this melee, whatever. Increase affliction resource generated by 500%, or completely refill health and shields and become immune for 10 seconds, but you deal 50% less damage. So this can be annoying or not annoying depending on what you want, but it can also be very useful. Increased damage dealt by 100% is pretty hard to say no to. If you don't want that, you can switch to something else. I don't really have too many other options for Joker. You can just pick a normal one if you want. Grenade. This is a heavily grenade-based build, and the reason being is Suicide Squad has not really figured out a way to make too many good builds that are not heavily reliant on grenades, as opposed to things like suicide strikes or melee. Sometimes you know there are traversal attack builds and things, but it's the point is like you need builds that kill a lot of enemies very quickly because you're constantly fighting just mobs and mobs of enemies, and like individually killing them with guns or melee attacks or whatever like is not really the way. And any build where you can just spam grenades over and over and over and like dramatically increase grenade damage is very good. That is my Harley build. Her Bane build was all about just grenade spam, and now that is true with Joker too. This is the new Polka Dot Man explosion build. I have a couple master versions of these, so this is doing pretty high damage. Each time you throw a grenade, there's a 50% chance the explosion propels 3 additional polka dots out of the explosion that turn into polka dot fashion. That in turn explode in glorious polka dot fashion. Each explosion has a 50% chance to apply poison on hit. So this is just a huge AoE, huge like chain spreading poison ability thing. So one thing you'll find is when these enemies are all immune to poison, that means they won't take any damage from your traversal attack. But one thing I do is I throw one of these grenades, it poisons everything on the ground, I launch myself up, and I use my traversal attack, which then will hit everything. I have this modified to fire. I have both of my things modified to fire, and then in my skill tree, my traversal attack applies fire on hits, even if it's not damaging them through these stupid shields. There is no villain synergy on this one. It's just by itself, but I think this is such a good grenade that as this poison application that I think you kind of almost have to use it. Okay. Moving on to shield. This is a two-phase shield where a critical hit kills either increase your damage up by 100% or increase your damage reduction for 30 seconds, and that can stack up to 3 times. Again, lots of critical hit kills in this, so if you can get 300% damage for 30 seconds or 45% damage reduction, huge, 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 huge. Obviously, you want a master version, mine's 2300, not bad. And this also has villain synergy. So harvesting enemies now has a 100% chance of dropping grenade ammo and increases grenade damage by 100% for 20 seconds. Yes, so in my grenade-based build, that's a very, very important thing to have. Traversal mod. This is not really something I have fully optimized yet. I think I need a Still Force Turtles mod, but that's from the last season. Those are like class specific, so like even if one applies across classes, you need that one for your specific class. You have to farm that. So I really don't have very many options here. I just have best offense, where if you use your traversal attack, it will fully recharge your shield, which is very useful in many circumstances if you're taking a lot of damage. As you can see, most of my modifications are increased damage to burning enemies, and things are going to be burning so much that that's a pretty good system. There is reduction in burn damage over time for this season, which is very stupid, but here we are. This is the new Dr. Psycho Psionic Barrier. Afflicted enemies within 20 meters deal less damage. Yeah, fine. This does have villain synergy, which is pretty good. Each affliction you apply gives you a different bonus. So if we're doing just Diablo, because that's pretty much all you want, damage reduction. If this was like a electric build, critical hit increased 100% critical hit damage would be useful. But you know, or deep freeze 100% damage still. Like you can see how those would be useful, but more damage reduction. I'm gonna take my health recharge thing over that. I think I don't know if that's like fully optimal, but that's what I'm doing. Neckbomb mod, reverse flashes focus. This is another new one for this season. You deal 25% more damage up to a maximum of 250 and gain 10% ultimate resource each second your health and shield have been full. It's pretty easy to keep those full a lot of the time. At higher levels it gets harder certainly, but you know, if you can keep this full for 5, 10, it's a huge damage increase, and then you will get your ultimate resource back all the time. I really think this is a good one. I haven't even deleted this one, but it does have 48% damage to burning enemies at baseline, so that's pretty good. I could change the XP one, but I don't care that much. And wait, what was the villain? No, there's no villain synergy with that one. It's just by itself, but it's pretty good. This is the only Scarecrow thing I have. It's just a lucky charm, damage to burning enemies, critical hit damage, pickup radius, and then, as I said before, you just need this one to apply poison on critical hits. So all of these coming together, it's a lot of critical hit stuff, it's a lot of poison spreading, it's increase crit hit damage, and then spreading poison as much as possible while kind of having the underlying affliction and everything be fire, and then having all these fire burning damage increase things. If you want to see the talent tree that looks like this, most of these are not very important. Once you get down here, this increases your firearm damage by 75% at a 40x combo, and then critical hits will burn enemies. So any critical hit will burn enemies and poison them. Pretty good. This one is 50x combo, grenade damage increased by 100%, and grenades automatically will burn enemies hit by your grenade to burn all enemies within 5 meters on death. So that spreads burn damage. Then this one's really good. Your squad ultimate, you spawn 3 grenade ammo at your feet and spawn 1 grenade ammo every 5 seconds. So this is just grenades bam city. Whenever you have your ultimate up, you can have your ultimate up a really, really large amount of the time based on how this game works and how much damage you can deal out. So that's kind of the main thing you're doing here. You're trying to have your squad ultimate up as much as possible and then spamming as many grenades as possible. A lot of the time, if you are having trouble getting through your barriers, stop throwing grenades and shoot them with your rifle, because the crit and poison and fire application will eventually get through that shield and you will be good to go. I'll do some gameplay here, but like the biggest problem with this build is, like so many things in Suicide Squad, visual UI clutter is crazy. Grenade spam builds have always had this kind of problem, but the polka dot grenade, it's like smoke and polka dots, and like it is so hard to see anything. You just have to keep throwing stuff and sort of assume you're killing stuff. Your little kill meter will go down and stuff like that. It's very funny because like posting this on, you know, YouTube videos of this, like people simply like just cannot get over the visual clutter in this game. Like I've played enough where like I'm just sort of used to it by now, and like I honestly for some reason never really had a problem with it. I know like from the outside perspective how goofy it looks and how like terrible it is, but like once you're in the game and you kind of know what everything is, you just sort of ignore it, and it doesn't, like, of all the things this game does poorly, like it doesn't really bother me. Not to say it's not bad, but I don't know, for some reason I've been able to get past it. But it is funny to watch all the comments on my YouTube video be like, my eyes, this is terrible. One thing this does not really get around is this idea that at higher levels, like, vehicles are essentially immune to damage because of all these different shields that are on them and how hard it is to get past them. You can't throw grenades to any significant degree at helicopters, for instance. So this is not a helpful build for that. And then if you get like 5 or 6 helicopters spawned, you can't really kill. You're going to be like sort of chain stunned to death, so that's not great. I'd say they need to fix this, but I don't have any faith in them fixing anything ever. I find this very fun. One of the other issues is like you sort of want this build on all your characters, because if you have your like Bane builds and stuff from last season, like your friends are not really going to be helping you out at all. You need them to be spreading poison at the same time you are. So if you want to make multiple copies of this for the rest of your squad, that might be useful, but I have never noticed my squad being less useful, because one of the freaking modifiers is like enemies are immune to Venom Frenzy, which is like the main point of the Bane build from last season, which is just ridiculous. So yeah, again, you're going to have to change everything around, but like I'm just not even bothering. I don't care enough to farm up multiple versions of this set for other characters. I don't. I do like some support things like King Shark, like launches everything in the air in slow motion, and just some fun things like that. But in terms of them being actually useful, they're even less useful than they ever have been with this setup. This is definitely a build that's best for like the kind of mob rush things, like where you have to kill 150 grunts or like 60 infused enemies. It's not nearly as good for the brute one. You can spam a bunch of brutes to death. It's definitely possible, but that one is the one with a bunch of tanks and helicopters, which are really, really antithetical to grenade builds. So kind of want to avoid that one. This is good for the Ivy one. It's really good at clearing off rooftops pretty quickly. Just throw one grenade down, use your traversal attack, and there'll be like one enemy alive. So it's really good for that one. The anti-aircraft missions just sort of suck in general. It's kind of a mess of just murdering your traversal at all times. There's electric storms. If you run into the center thing, it kills your traversal. There's mines in the air. There's freezing helicopters. It's just a very irritating battle, and there's 2 of those. I don't really even know the difference between the 2 of them, but there are 2 anti-aircraft missions now, which is super annoying. I don't play Killing Time. I find that's a giant waste of time, no pun intended, but this would be a good build for that, honestly. So yeah, I understand that like this will probably get 40 views because no one cares about this. But if you are trying to play this as an actual game, if you're trying to find, okay, I did all this work, I unlocked Joker, what should I do with him? Why are these modifiers so shitty? This is a way where I would argue that this is, if you like Suicide Squad gameplay and you can have any amount of fun with just gameplay, minus all the other crap that's missing or broken, this is a pretty fun build to get around the obnoxious modifiers and still be able to kill stuff at higher tier mastery levels. I think I'm above 30 in mastery in most places, which has only taken me kind of less than a week here. So this is a very strong build. There's certainly tweaks I can do and more things I'm looking for. But yeah, this is a solid build, and I'm having fun with it. It's as much fun as I can have in this current situation. But yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.